Any things from the consent calendar, if you wish? If not, may I have a motion for the approval of the agenda? Marcy? Seconded? Marty? Any discussion? All in favor? 6-0. Next on the agenda is the 2016 Red Ribbon Logo winner and presented by Maureen Knupp.
Yay, good. I don't even have to ask you to come down. No, I like to complain. Here's something. Kira, thank you very much for your logo, because before I read the speech they prepared for me, I wanted to tell you something. Your logo, it says YOLO, you only live once. And without knowing it, your logo is one of the things that they're going to use as a conversation piece to all the kids at the high school on Red Ribbon Week next week when they're in some of their classes. So you hit a theme that's very important to us throughout the district. You only live once. So I wanted to just tell you that because I learned this at our Chemical Prevention Advisory Committee meeting, and I said, is that not cool that you were ahead of the game? So thank you very much. Now I get to read this good stuff about you, okay? All right. As you're going to begin to see the red ribbons around our community, you know that we embrace Red Ribbon Week wholeheartedly. The effort is the most successful drug prevention event ever held nationwide. The Red Ribbon campaign began in 1988 in response to a drug enforcement agent, Enrique Camarena, being killed by drug traffickers in Mexico. Wearing red ribbons is a symbol of our commitment to providing a drug-free future to our nation's youth. Red Ribbon Week is an opportunity for everyone to come together to celebrate healthy lifestyles in our schools and our community. So we encourage all families to continue to promote healthy lifestyles and celebrate all activities that take place in our schools throughout Red Ribbon Week and, of course, throughout the year. This is a great way to show our support for drug-free youth. So last year, the Fairport Chemical Prevention Advisory Committee conducted a logo contest with the fifth graders in our DARE program. Their challenge was to design a logo for the Fairport community around the national theme, Be Drug-Free, You Only Live Once. The winning design was printed on 10,000 red ribbons and will be worn by youth and adults in the community during Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd to 29th. 10,000 of these from you. Thanks. Kira, how do you say your last name?
Gray-Shaber.
Okay, Kira Gray-Shaber is currently a student at Johanna, Parry, and she designed this year's winning logo as a Brooks Hill School DARE student. So on behalf of I think that's Brooks Hill giving you a little shout out too, right? Okay. So on behalf of the Board of Education, we congratulate you on designing such an impressive logo. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
Next on the agenda is the Board of Education recognition. I say embarrassingly. And I believe the first up is Brooks Hill. Are you going to do it? Okay.
Thank you. As part of School Board Recognition Week, I have the pleasure of welcoming our principals, our PTAs, and students who are here to recognize Fairport's Board of Education members for their service to our students and our community. These 7 board members are the people who serve as educational advocates for all of our children. They are willing to take a stand on issues that affect our children and that are important to our community. Most important in everything they do is they care for our children. We see their care played out in so many different ways. They lead the way and set the standard as a school board when it comes to advocacy at the state level to make sure that our children are getting the best possible education possible, play-based learning, equity and access in all of our schools, and providing opportunities that our students can connect to their environments in meaningful ways. This board deeply cares about our children, and they understand that you get one shot to give our students the very best experiences. PTSA representatives and students are here tonight to thank the board members for their commitment and contributions to our community. I would like to introduce or have Bob Clark and his group come up first. He has an event that he needs to go to. So, sorry, guys. Thanks.
First, my apologies to Brooks Hill and jumping the line. I appreciate your patience. We have a senior trip meeting in a little bit here. I just want to say good evening on behalf of all the staff and students at Fairport High School. I want to thank the entire Board of Education for your time and dedication to our school community. In partnership with our PTSA representative, Ms. Van Heel, I think we might have gone a little bit too early for her. It is our pleasure to introduce the senior class president, Piper Bailey, and our student council Board of Education representative, Sydney Barrett, for our special presentation.
Hi, we are very honored to be here tonight to honor Mrs. Maureen Knupp for her service to our schools as a member of the Board of Education. Mrs. Knupp was first elected to the board in 1998, and at the end of her current term, she will have served for 21 years. We would like to thank Mrs. Knupp for her commitment and dedication to the Fairport School District, and also for supporting students at countless events, not only at FHS, but throughout the whole district.
Hello, everyone. On 2 consecutive days in June 1963 and 2 lyrical speeches, John F. Kennedy pivots dramatically and boldly on the 2 greatest issues of his time, nuclear arms and civil rights. In language unheard in Lily White, Cold War America, he appeals to Americans to see both the Russians and the Negroes as human beings. His speech on June 10th leads to the Limited Nuclear Test Ban Treaty of 1963. His speech on June 11th to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Based on new material, hours of recently uncovered documentary film shot in the White House and the Justice Department, fresh interviews, and a rediscovered draft speech, 2 days in June captures Kennedy at the high noon of his presidency in startling granular detail, which biographer Sally Bedell Smith calls a seamless and riveting narrative beautifully written, weaving together the consequential and the quotidian with verve and authority. Moment by moment, JFK's feverish 48 hours unspools in a cinematic clarity as he addresses peace and freedom. In the tick-tock of the American presidency, we see Kennedy facing down George Wallace over the integration of the University of Alabama, talking obsessively about sex and politics at a dinner party in Georgetown, recoiling at a newspaper photograph of a burning monk in Saigon, planning a secret diplomatic mission to Indonesia, and reeling from the midnight murder of Medgar Evers. There were 1,036 days in the presidency of John F. Kennedy. This is the story of 2 of them. We are very proud to donate 2 days in June, John F. Kennedy, and the 48 hours that made history to our library in honor of Mrs. Knupp. Thank you.
Again, thanks to the board and allowing us to jump the line there. Have a good night.
Brooks Hill, you're welcome to come.
Good evening. On behalf of the students, staff, and families of Brooks Hill School, we would like to formally recognize Mr. Damon Buffum this evening. We appreciate Mr. Buffum's dedication and commitment to the Fairport School community and Brooks Hill School. In Fairport, we are fortunate to have Board of Education members like Mr. Buffum who are committed to providing our students with a quality education and well-rounded experiences that support the growth of the whole child. Tonight, we have Mr. Buffum's grandson, first grader Charlie Taylor, representing Brooks Hill. He will share a few words of appreciation.
How about we move this way down? Brooks Hill School would like to thank Grandpa Damon for helping Fairport students, staff, and principals. I told Mrs. Cluse that we like to joke around together. Mrs. Cluse and I wanted to donate joke books to the Brooks Hill Library in his honor. We are donating 5 joke books that we know the kids at Brooks Hill School will love. Thank you, Grandpa Damon.
We know that Damon can't be here tonight, but we did purchase 5, which will be very popular joke books of all sorts for our school library in his honor. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cluse. Next up, we have Dr. Finger and the Dudley School representing and presenting to Mrs. Cardona.
Good evening. On behalf of the Dudley PTA, teachers, staff, and students, we'd also like to recognize and thank the entire Board of Education for all that you do to continue the tradition of excellence in all Fairport schools. We are especially pleased this evening to be able to recognize Mrs. Marty Cardona. Dudley School has the unique pleasure of having Mrs. Cardona's daughter, Christina, as one of our kindergarten teachers, and her granddaughter, Macy, as one of our first graders. Both are here this evening to recognize their mom and grandma, as well as our PTA president, Stacia Liu, and Ryan Charno, our assistant principal. Christina?
First, I'd like to say thank you to the entire Board of Education. As a parent in the district and well as a teacher, it's obvious that this board has our students' best interest at the heart of every decision that is made. It's certainly appreciated, and I believe the Fairport community is better because of all of you. On behalf of our Dudley family, I would like to take a moment to recognize my mom, Marty Cardona. My mom is always reading. She reads anything and everything and things more than once. But there is one genre that lights up her face more than the others, and she actually becomes filled with joy and anticipation. It's children's books. When she reads with children, I truly believe it brings her to a very happy place. Her voice contains an excitement as she reads, and she gets lost in the storyline, as do the kids she's reading with. You can always tell when the book is funny, mysterious, or sad, depending on her tone. Her enthusiasm for reading is contagious, and it's clear to me that my mom understands the magnitude of reading and using your imagination. Dudley has chosen an Oliver Jeffers book entitled A Child of Books. This book is a perfect reflection of how my mom feels about the power of words and stories. In this story, a nameless young girl who calls herself a child of books narrates, and some, she says, have forgotten the importance of stories, but she finds a boy and introduces him to her world. This is a lot like what I believe my mom has done for me and for the kids she has read to over the years. And for that, Mom, Dudley would like to thank you for inspiring so many to pick up a book and to begin their very own journey with the gift of stories and imagination. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Jefferson Ave School and Principal Rich Green and Assistant Principal Amy Busby to honor Mrs. Kostick.
My name is Olivia Vasallo, and I'm in 5th grade. I was the secretary for the JA Student Council last year.
My name is James Pauligan, and I am in 5th grade. I was the treasurer for the JA Student Council last year.
We are excited to be here tonight to recognize Mrs. Joyce Kostick. 15 years ago, she joined the Fairport Board of Education because she thinks education is very important and thinks children should have everything they need to learn.
Mrs. Kostick loves to spend time with the students in Fairport. She likes to visit classrooms, attend sporting events, concerts, art shows, and other events.
This year is the year of the celebration at JA, so we asked Mrs. Kostick what is one thing she wants to celebrate about Fairport schools. She told us she celebrates how everyone in our schools work together.
Mrs. Kostick and the Board of Education love to join in celebrations throughout the district. They attend graduation, host the 10-year celebration, and attend special events in the schools.
We would like to thank you, Mrs. Kostick, for all of your years on the Fairport Board of Education. Thank you for giving us and all the students a chance to learn and grow.
We will be donating this book to our library in your honor. We chose it because it inspires creativity and thinking outside of the box, two things we know are important to you.
Thank you, Team JA. Next up, we have Johanna Parry. Principal Mr. Groh will be coming up to recognize Marilyn Mockelbaum.
Good evening. I'd like to thank everybody for having us here tonight, and certainly for the Board of Ed. As a new principal, it's been great. I know the Fairport family starts with Brett and you guys, and I felt it in my first few months there. So on behalf of myself, our staff, our PTSA president, Ms. Natalie Pincus, I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight and doing the great job you do. And I'd like to introduce our students, Calvin Erickson, Lennon Winters, Sophie Maywison, and Kaylee Evans for our presentation.
Johanna Parent School is pleased to honor, recognize, and thank Mrs. Monkelbaum this year.
Mrs. Monkelbaum, we are students in the new JP book club called Can't I'm Booked. Each month we read a book from a different genre with a theme for the month. For example, this month we are reading a ghost story for obvious reasons. What is cool and different about this book club is that we begin each month with a fun activity related to the genre. We made glow-in-the-dark slime this month. During the month, we read the book, and then the last week of the month, we will discuss the book together.
To honor you and your giving spirit, we have purchased 3 copies of Pay It Forward by Catherine Ryan Hyde for the JP Library. In this fictional story, 12-year-old Trevor accepts his social studies teacher's extra credit assignment.
Think of an idea for world change and put it into action.
Trevor's idea is simple. Do a good deed for 3 people and ask them each to pay it forward to 3 people. He imagines a world of kindness and goodwill by simply starting with 3 people. In December, a month known for kindness and giving, our book club will be reading Pay It Forward. We would love to have you join us for our discussion on December 20th at 2:45 p.m. if you are available.
Thank you for all you do to make our world a better place.
Well done, JP. Thank you. I would like to have Mr. Dunn and Martha Brown, the Martha Brown contingent, come forward to recognize Marcy Hosford.
Good evening. We are so lucky to have you. I say that all the time, people that I work with and people outside the county, we are so fortunate to have a Board of Education that embraces what we do in our schools, embraces kids, embraces everybody here. So if you haven't heard it enough, thank all of you for all your work, all your hard work and support of our schools and our kids. We're here to recognize a very special board member this evening, Marcy Hosford, and you did it right. I'm not sure what that process was all about, but you picked a great one for us. And as a middle school principal, we love the fact that 6th grade, 8th grade, Marcy's going to be around for a while. We've got 3 special student council members here tonight. Sean Waddington, our 8th grade student council president, and 2 very, very special student council representatives, Ben Hosford, 8th grade, and Caitlin Hosford in 6th grade.
Good evening, Fairport School Board members and community. My name is Sean Waddington, and I am president of Student Council at Martha Brown. I am here to convey our school's appreciation for all the time and dedication that this school board gives to the Fairport district. Thank you for making the Fairport schools a safe, caring, and academically challenging place to go to school every day. Here are 2 friends of mine to recognize Mrs. Marcy Hosford.
Dear Fairport board members and community, my name is Ben Hosford, and this is my sister Caitlin. We are in 8th and 6th grade at Martha Brown Middle School and have the pleasure of recognizing our mom, Marcy Hosford. For this year's Board of Education recognition presentation, Mom, we know how much you love quotes, so we have selected some that remind us of you.
Winston Churchill is quoted as saying, "We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give." Tonight we will share with you some of what our mom gives to us that has helped create our amazing life.
A friend is a person with whom I may be sincere. Before him I may think aloud. When Ralph Waldo Emerson said these words sometime in the 1800s, we think he was talking about our mom. When she is someone we can talk to. I can share when I am bothered by something or upset, and she is always there to listen. She is always there to listen when we need her the most. Satchel Paige knew about adversity in his lifetime, yet he is quoted as saying, "Never let your head hang down, never give up and sit down and grieve. Find another way." These words express how our mom always helps us keep going when things are tough or overwhelming. She helps us find another way to overcome the obstacles in our lives. She is our own personal cheerleader and problem solver.
Clear your mind of Kant. These words from ancient Athenian times are so true of our mom. Whenever I'm feeling nervous, my mom always says, "You got this, you can do this." She makes us believe we can get through anything and accomplish everything.
You have probably heard the Irish proverb before, "Dance as if no one's watching and sing if no one's listening, and live every day if it was your last." Our mom lives this ideal every day. She is never embarrassed by what she does. She is always proud of who she is. Just for example, she sings in the car, at church, and even in Wegmans. Just like she is by herself. She models for us every day by how she loves life and lives life. To be true to ourselves and be proud of who we are.
The book that we have purchased to dedicate to the Martha Brown School Library in honor of Mrs. Hosford is 1001 Smartest Things Ever Said. Unfortunately, it is not the most current edition, as it does not include this quote by Marcy Hosford. "I am going to join the Fairport Board of Education." Definitely one of the smartest things ever said.
Thank you, Mom.
Way to represent Martha Brown. Great job. Next, we have the Northside team with Carolyn Shea and Aaron Moretter.
I love it. This is what a Northside hero does, steps right up to the mic. We are super excited to be here tonight, and thank you to everyone on the board for your commitment and dedication to all the students here in Fairport. I'm joined by Carolyn Shea, the principal at Northside School, and Mrs. Stacy Schell, I was going to say the assistant principal. She's the vice president of our PTA. And we have a very special Northside hero who is going to read a nice little tribute to a very special man, his father, Mr. Peter Forsgren.
Tonight we are here to thank the members of the Board of Education for everything they do for our schools. My dad, Peter Forsgren, has been on the BOE for a few years. BOE is what's written on the calendar when Dad has a meeting. He really likes being part of making important decisions that affect our schools and community. If someone asks what he likes best about the BOE, my mom would tell them that he loves Fairport and wants to be involved in keeping Fairport and our schools great. I think they are doing a great job. I like my school and I like being a Red Raider. If someone asks me what my dad does on the BOE, I would tell them that he goes to meetings, a lot of meetings. But I know he is doing good things. Thank you, Peter Forsgren, and all the other people on the BOE for going to all these meetings and making important decisions that will keep our schools great. Thank you.
And on behalf of Northside School, we would like to present you with What to Do with a Box by Jane Yolen, representing the creativity, problem solving, all the good things that are happening in all of the buildings throughout their district. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Northside. Last but definitely not least, we have Pam Serrani and the Minerva DeLand team to give the proclamation for all board members.
Good evening. I just want to again say thank you for the opportunity to say thank you and express our gratitude for all of your hard work and the way that you make a difference in the lives of students and staff, and as an extension, the entire communities in Fairport and Perrington. And Minerva DeLand is proud to make the proclamation, so at this time I'd like to turn the microphone over to the class of 2020 presidents, Trey Alimo and Natalie Peacock.
Good evening. Whereas New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo has declared the week of October 24th through the 28th as School Board Education Recognition Week throughout the Empire State, a time for residents to acknowledge the contributions made by our local school board members, and
whereas an outstanding public education school system is vital to the quality of life for residents of the Fairport, Perrington communities and other communities in our state and nation, and
whereas the Fairport Board of Education embraces a vision for our schools to cultivate creative, healthy, caring, and analytical thinkers who will compete and contribute successfully in a diverse society, and
whereas Fairport School Board members Damon Buffum, Margaret Cardona, Peter Forsgren, Marcy Hosford, Joyce Kostick, Marilyn Monkoban, and Maureen Knupp volunteer their services without compensation to act as advocates for all learners, and
whereas Fairport can take pride in its schools, our students receive a well-rounded education that nurtures their academic, artistic, physical, and social emotional development.
Therefore, on behalf of the student and staff at Minerva DeLand and all the schools in the district, we would like to express our gratitude to the Board of Education for the lasting and significant impact these board members have had on our lives of Fairport students. Thank you.
And once again, thank you to all Board of Education members for all your contributions.
We'll break for 3 minutes. Next, we have a presentation, financial audit by Mr. Raymond Wager. Thank you.
My pleasure to be here tonight. I'm going to do a very quick overview of your financial condition, how the audit went last year. If you have any questions, please stop me as I go along. I'll try and answer them. I can tell you that the audit process went very well again. We had no major adjustments to your books, which is always a good positive thing. Your financial condition continues to be in very, very good shape. However, there's some numbers that I'd like to go over just so you understand those. Hopefully you have the audit report, you have a management letter, and then you have an executive summary. And about a week or so ago, I spent time with the audit committee going over the executive summary in a lot of detail. We go through line by line pretty much in this summary. But what I'd like to bring your attention to is when you look at that, you will see that your total equities and fund balance and reserves actually went down almost $7.5 million. Just so you're all aware of that, and you need to know why. Why did that happen? Well, you moved $6.7 million over to the capital fund to help fund your projects, which is an excellent move. That's one of the first things that the state recommends when you have sufficient funds and sufficient reserves. One of the things they recommend is to pay down or help reduce debt from capital projects, and you did a really good job of that. So you moved $6.7 million out of your fund balance. Now your operating budget, what happened is that ended up with about a spend down of about $800,000 to $900,000 in total, which is not bad. When you take your budget surplus minus what you appropriated for your taxes, to reduce taxes, you did have a small spend down of your overall resources. But it's not the $7.4 million. It's really about $800,000 to $900,000. Okay? But if you have a few minutes, take a look at that executive summary. It shows the balance sheet. It shows the variances. It shows the differences. And you'll see where the money has been moved. And it'll be spent over in the capital fund. So that's an excellent thing. Okay? Any questions on that? Because that's really the key of your financial condition for this past year. You have to understand the numbers, and when you look at them close, it looks like you spent down $7.5 million. You really didn't. You moved $6.7 million. Okay? So otherwise, your budget ended up with just a little spend down in total, which is not bad. And again, the audit went fine. You have a management letter we call communicating internal control items, is what the official title. There's like 3 items in there, and I think the good part is that there's a reaction to our suggestions. None of the comments in there that we feel are significant problems or significant weaknesses. They're suggestions. And the response right in the document, I think, makes it very easy to read. You go through it, you can talk about it, and it's right there. Okay, so hopefully there won't be any confusion or what's going on with that. The state requires a corrective action plan, which is already embedded in your report. Okay, so you're ahead of the game there. So, any other questions? Because that's just a very quick overview of your finances and your internal controls and your procedures. None of those are anything significant as far as a weakness. Okay?
Ray, I mentioned to some of the people on the policy committee that you had recommended that we have a policy regarding transfers for capital projects. Transfers. Mm-hmm. And we were all surprised because we said, we have that in place. We're doing it already. And I think what we have in place is anytime the district transfers money from the general money, that's the policy that we see that transfer. And I think all we really need to do to follow your suggestion would be to add "and during capital projects." Would that make it appropriate, do you think, for what your intention was?
Yeah, maybe.
Change order request.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I know we have done it.
Yeah, and
But we
that's,
didn't have
I'm
the
glad you
paperwork.
brought that up. And actually, that's a nice discussion item, because what we generally see is in a policy, anything over $10,000 or $20,000 has to go to the board, and it's in a policy. So that's how we react to it. However, you've already addressed it in a board resolution. So we're okay with that. We're okay with that as long as everyone is aware of it, and then that the claims auditor checks to make sure that that happens. That's fine.
Okay.
We generally see it in a policy, and that's how we reacted. We didn't see it in your policy, but as long as you have it covered in a resolution, I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Okay, anything else? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
Next is the communications section, and we have Sydney Barrett, our student advisor, with a report.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sydney Barrett, and I'll be giving a brief report on the events going on here at the high school and throughout the district. The Fairport Alumni Wall of Fame annually recognizes outstanding Fairport alumni who have achieved distinction in their lives in chosen fields after high school. Fairport was proud to honor 4 inductees during the ceremony on October 1st at Fairport High School. Inductees included Lieutenant Patrick J. Benfonte, Daniel Leopold, John M. Martins, and Alexander Rosen. This week, students in Fairport schools are taking part in Safety Week. The Fairport School District works closely with national, state, and local safety officials to ensure that students and staff are well prepared for emergency events. A few weeks ago, Fairport High School seniors visited their second grade teacher, Mrs. Kathy Ronzinski, to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the garden they planted in the Dudley courtyard. Mrs. Ronzinski wanted the students to be aware of the amazing legacy they left for future students. Next week, Fairport students will participate in Red Ribbon Week. The week highlights the importance of living a drug-free life. Thank you for listening, and I hope you all have a fantastic week.
Thanks, Sydney.
Thank you, Sydney.
The next is a very brief President's Report. I delivered the activity sheets to Mrs. Saunders. I'm not sure if I have them all, but and I want the board members to think ahead to the next workshop and what topics we would like to cover. Just a few, please. And also that we're planning a mini retreat in the beginning of November, and what we would like to accomplish at that mini retreat. The workshop outcome summaries are being placed in box, and they're with the workshop materials, that particular workshop materials. That's it for me. Thank you.
Good evening. Once again, I would like to thank the Board of Education, not only on this night, but all the other nights and opportunities that you have to come together and talk about and make very important decisions about our schools. It's seen in so many ways, and I'm honored to serve as superintendent of Fairport Schools, and it's something that I have to pinch myself, when I'm out and about and seeing all the great things. So thank you for all that you do. The Board of Education has high standards and expectations. Is that? Exactly. Again, the Board of Education has high standards and expectations and really wants to make sure that the district goals, there's progress on the district goals, and there's frequent updates and conversation about how we're doing and how we can continue to improve as a school district. Tonight I'm going to report on some highlights of those district goals. The first one is to create a timely budget process and budget that reflects district goals and values. At last month's Board of Education workshop, the board came up with 3 main focus areas for the budget season, and the first one is to study and develop efficiencies at each level of the organization so we could be the best for our children, but at the same time be economically sound as we move along in this era. This also includes a comprehensive review of our facilities planning and a formal strategic plan with instructional technology. And Mr. Gubiati's comments are very much aligned to what the board is actually trying to accomplish. So I look forward to meeting with him again and developing, some of his interests and seeing how we can work together as we work with the district planning team to come up with our ideas for the future. The second piece, or the second goal, is to review and assess the levels of support for mental health programming. Throughout the year, we're going to be talking about what is the current state with mental health and our mental health needs, and do we have enough resources, or are we using the resources in the correct manner to support the growing mental health needs of our students? Again, another budget priority as we allocate and think about best ways to utilize our resources. And finally, the Board of Education is understanding and committed to understand how funds are distributed across budget areas, and we'll be working with the board and sharing information on what goes in those line items so they can be well informed, and again to ensure that we're putting our dollars in the right places. The second update is on goal number 2 here on this bulleted list in front of you. Create and sustain a pre-K through 12th grade curriculum that is the foundation for research-based, developmentally appropriate, student-centered instruction and assessment. On October 7th, there was a half-day conference. I would like to thank all of the administrative team and lead teachers and others who helped make that day a success. It was a half-day that was focusing on our district curricular areas, which included articulating developmentally appropriate ELA writing processes and expectations for grades K through 5, departmental curriculum reviews, and other groups had opportunities to learn about mental health and how it impacts our students in ways that we could best respond to those students. Again, very focused, it was a cursory beginning to what we hope to build upon for the year as we provide more updates. And what I'm most interested in talking about here is the last bullet up there. It says, develop and implement a plan to connect each student to his or her school environment where equal access and opportunity will prevail. If you take a look at where we have been the past several years, it speaks to how our demographics are changing in Fairport. When I first came to Fairport, less than, it was 13 years ago, or about 13 years ago, we were about 7 or 8% free and reduced lunch. Well, through the years, it's escalated, and we're, as an overall district, at 14%, and that fluctuates from year to year, sometimes a little higher, but it hasn't been much lower than that in the last several years. A real change in how that impacts what happens in our schools. And you can see it broken down. Elementary, there's approximately 15%, or approximately 436 students. When you put those real numbers to it, it's 436 students who are coming to us who have free and reduced lunch and are living what could be seen as underserved or at risk. 232 middle school students, or 14%. And the secondary, or 9 through 12, it's 288 students. Now, I would say that that number is low because those students don't always report, or those families don't always report at that time. So those numbers are usually a little bit higher. But it really impacts our schools and what we see in our schools on a daily basis. The next slide speaks to the growing demographics. Since 2012 to 2017, there's a 70% increase or percent change in our ENL population. You could see in 2012, oh, it didn't go? No. Oh, sorry. Oh, no, yeah, there it is. We had, again, 90 students in 2012, then we went to 80 students, and then to the present, we're 136 ENL students, and that represents 24 different language. And what we're seeing more than ever, these students are coming to us with interrupted formal education. More than ever, those are called SIFE students. They're coming to us with what we call adverse childhood experiences. They've come from refugee camps. They've come from extreme poverty, again, interrupted educational experiences on top of their language barriers. It makes school different for them, and it makes how we need to respond to them to make sure that they have all the opportunities that they need to be successful at their disposal. And that's something that I know that the board is extremely interested in developing and learning about. So much that tonight, if the board is so inclined to approve a new position, a .6 of a Title I Student, Parent, and Community Equity and Access Liaison. And again, this is something that we're leaders in. I know that other school districts around Monroe County are very interested in this position as well. And it's sort of the talk of the town. But to have somebody to be available to advocate and support for students and families of low economic status, to promote social awareness and understanding on the changing demographics and needs of our school community, and to engage students and staff and community members in discussions and activities designed to promote awareness. This person we see as someone who will be a vital network to make sure that we're being the best for these students, because what happens throughout the years, through the transitions, lots gets lost. And we want to make sure that there's someone there to be able to support these students and their families. And incidentally, and I know that the board didn't do it, but this goes beyond the new ESSA laws. And it speaks to your vision and your commitment to make sure that we're meeting the needs of this population. In that same realm of making connections, we know that in our schools that we have over 110 clubs to support students to be connected to their school environment, and those clubs are getting underway. On November 2nd, there's going to be a community forum on the mental health, safety, and well-being of our students that we're going to be engaging the community in a conversation about that very topic. Again, all in the name of making sure that we're meeting the needs, that we're making progress on our district goals of being the best for our students. So in a short while, I'll be talking a little bit about research and school times, but I just wanted to share that update and really share and celebrate the focus that the board has and the expectations that the board has, that we're making progress and committed to our district goals. Thank you.
Thanks. Now, Mr. Stevens with Treasurer's Report.
Okay, good evening. The Treasurer's Report review, it would be for the month ending August 2016. We started with a beginning balance of $35.5 million. Receipts for the month totaled $2.7 million, and disbursements of $3.3 million for an ending balance of $34.9 million. I know I say this every meeting, but in comparison to last year, it's approximately $7.2 million in a cash balance decrease. And you heard Mr. Wagner mention earlier, a good portion of that would be related to the reserve drawdowns. So, thank you.
I'd say the evidence of that drawdown is in not having leaking roofs at Northside and other places, right?
Correct.
Yes.
The board is setting aside some time to discuss district goals, and I believe this was what you were referring to just a minute ago. And this is going to be on start times and transportation.
Absolutely, and it's kind of exciting for a guy like me that we're talking about all of our goals, and we're sharing a little bit of progress on what we've achieved to date, or what our expectations and hopes are for the future, with, in particular, to develop a plan to adjust K-12 start times to be aligned with research, fiscal resources, and the scheduling constraints that are associated with it. I think it's important to recognize in a public forum that we did say that we would give families a complete year to adjust to the possibility or to a change in time. We will not be, as a result of that, we will not be looking at this for the fall, just because of that commitment that we made to the community, because we realize that there's many nuances at home with daycare and responsibilities to make sure they get their students to school, that we didn't want to hinder that. So that will not be happening as we start the 2017-2018 school year. We're looking at new variables, or we're looking at creating some scenarios that would include the 18 minutes or 18 additional minutes onto the school day. But we're also taking a look at creating a variable-free schedule. Right now, there's so many constraints when you take a look at, time, before school, after school. The elementary contingent, likes things pretty much the way they are. The secondary contingent has to worry about, what happens after school. There's daycare, also interests that are at play. There's private and parochial interests that are at play. But we're looking at models and looking at case studies to try to minimize the variables that affect this endeavor at a cost-effective way as well. And the more that we're studying this, the more I'm starting to understand, and it sort of came to me today in a moment of clarity, that it's trading time versus costs, actual financial costs. And that's what we're looking at, is how do you find that balance, because there are the realities of the world that we live in, the clocks that we all live by and the schedules that need to happen. But at the same time, we can't be purchasing 29 buses to make, this come to fruition. So where's our balance? Where's our threshold? And that's what we're looking at, coming up with case studies for the board to further study and reflect upon the fiscal constraints, or the scheduling constraints and the fiscal resources that we have available to make this a reality. We're also looking at the pairings of our schools in a 3-tiered system to make sure that, can we create schedules that align to research just for the secondary? Can we mix and match different schools to make this a reality mathematically? How do you do that? And that's what this phase that we're doing. Again, not to come up with reasons why we can't do it, but what would it take to make it happen, and what are the opportunity costs that are associated with that? That's something that the board is going to have to process. So in essence, that's where we are. We're building case studies. We're minimizing the variables, but trying to be as realistic as possible too. So when we make recommendations, or when I make a recommendation, we understand the full opportunity costs. And I offer that for discussion.
Just add that there are some contractual constraints also that we have to put into the mix, and that makes it just more complicated. And just, we all know, but the research is there as far as start times and what's best for kids. So we're trying to deliver that, but we're trying to do it in a financially viable way, and also the least disruptive to the community. So here we are.
So Brett, you mentioned that you're looking at a 3-tier system. When we were at a workshop in August, we were talking about a 2-tier system, and that's where we saw, gosh, this would be more expensive than we thought. Will the 3-tier help us be a little bit more, less costly?
The 3-tier is where we are. And that would mean that we wouldn't have to do as many consolidations, and the math on it would work out in a way that we wouldn't have to add as many buses. That would be the goal of it. So yes, it's about the efficiencies.
And I know I know that they've looked at so many different possibilities that I hate to have us. What are the current concerns for the 3 tiers that we're looking, that you're talking? I mean, you talked about a lot of concerns that we've had, that we've heard from the community in terms of after-school programs, before-school programs, all that sort of stuff. How would this current system mitigate any of those concerns?
You mean the projections of the case studies?
Projected, yes.
And that's what we're looking at. I mean, I want to be realistic, whatever it is we share with you. but it would affect the length of the day, and it would make the day stretch into 4 o'clock for our secondary. Depending on what we do with elementary, there would be some childcare issues that would have to be worked on, and depending on how we manage the 18 minutes scenario as well would feed into it. But it's going to keep pushing us later into the day. And I think that's the big challenge, is how much are we willing to bear? So we could start the high school students at 9:15 or 9 o'clock, but that would mean it would
4:30.
Right. So those are big community conversations. Also, the elementary pieces as well. If we push them later, do we want our kids getting home at 4:30, 4:45 at best? If we go later with them. So those are some big questions that we need to grapple with. But we're trying to create a clean case study or 2 or 3 for the board to again, consider the realities. The good news is that this is a Monroe County interest as well. I think, is it tomorrow? Tomorrow afternoon.
I was just going to remind everybody, tomorrow at 4 o'clock at whatever the name of that hotel, Lexington?
Exactly.
Lexington.
Yeah. Brooks Avenue Hotel, Old Holiday Inn, it sounds fancier. But they will have 3 speakers, some of whom I think we've heard before. What I think will be most interesting is to hear the conversation from the other districts and what their questions and concerns are, which I would expect we'd hear through the questions and discussion.
If there's a united effort to make this a reality like they did with Seattle schools, that would be a game changer. Again, because now you're taking private and parochials. Again, for Fairport, that's 19 additional runs in variables that influence what we do. BOCES, working with that cooperative network. So that would just eliminate some variables. Hopefully, we could build upon it.
And you have to think that there is interest because this topic was selected by popular demand of board members across the county. So it certainly wasn't just the 7 of us that got that on the agenda by any means.
I know one local district that is not interested in it of the Monroe County.
Is not interested?
Not interested because they start they start at 8:10, and so they're like, what are we going to gain? But majority of them, if not everyone else, is all on board. So by January, as the new year begins, we should have a complete report. And of course, I'll try to give you sneak previews along the way if something comes up before then. This was an important conversation to have in the public forum, so the many listeners and viewers could see exactly where we are as well. I know you're out there.
I saw Matt's name down. Did you have anything to? No, okay.
Thank you.
Next is the approval of the consent calendar. This is under one motion. May I have a motion, please? Joyce, second. Maureen, all in favor? 6-0.
If I can quickly be inappropriate, padded sideline chairs, where are those being deployed? What are, curious, padded sideline chairs, the donation?
I thought these were the
Oh, where are they being deployed? Where are they being used? What, is it specific field? Is it?
Reservations on those?
Yeah, I don't know the exact whereabouts.
Oh,
Matt, Matt?
Oh, well, I was just kind of curious. It's not fixing the pool issue, right? This one?
We're addressing that.
I want to say it's volleyball, but I can verify. Yeah. It's either volleyball or basketball.
Mail on it, I suppose, but.
It's either volleyball or basketball, because I
Okay.
remember the letter that came from the athletics. So.
For teams, is it for audience?
Teams, for teams. Yep.
And board members.
And board members, okay, good.
So instructional staff actions. Several pages. May I have a motion, please? Marty, second. Joyce? Discussion? All in favor? 6-0. Substitute teacher additions. May I have a motion, please? Maureen, second. Pete? Discussion?
So many of them seem to be working towards certification. I know that's fine for substitutes, that they're working toward it. How, do we have any standards on where they are in that process, that they have to be, how close, can I just say, I'm working at it? No. I have certification, I'm all set.
You can't. So in terms of working towards certification, the majority of the individuals who are listed here tonight either hold certification in another state and are now working through the certification process here in New York to be able to have New York State certification, or they already have their materials in with the state. So when working towards certification, for purposes of this agenda and what this means, are that they already have things into New York State, and we're monitoring their progress as they work through certification. If they were a student at a accredited school, we would note that if they were still coursework or something that they had to do other than work through the process with the state.
All in favor? 6-0. The non-instructional and civil service staff actions, we have our proposed resolution, but it should appear on page 10 after we go through all the non-instructional civil service actions. So do I have a motion for the non-instructional civil service staff actions? Marty, a second? Joyce, any discussion? Like I said, it goes through to page 10.
Is that sports study hall, is that a new position for the supervisor? It's on the last page, it's just as additional positions.
No.
Is that new, or what's happening? Is that in there before?
So we have had sports study hall at our middle school, and it's really for those students prior to when they go over to the high school and their practice begins. Many times we have, when it will say additional position, it means because the individual's already employed by us as a paraprofessional. So this is an additional position in addition to what they already have.
Sports non-study hall.
So it's an additional position to the person, not to the school.
Correct, additional to a position they already hold.
It's for supervision.
I was just curious as to what the student helper position was.
Go for it.
I was too when I first saw it, but we have a program at Fairport High School where many of our students are employed while they're students with us. So you see in this particular agenda, we had a number of our students who graduated last year, participated in the program, and here we're now exiting them for the program. We have a number that we're hiring this year as well through that program, and they work in the athletic office and the main office at various different places throughout the school as part of their experience, gaining employment experience. It's not a full or part-time position. It's really working a handful of hours.
They just get an hourly rate of some kind.
They do. They receive an hourly rate.
Any more discussion? All in favor? 6-0. So now we proceed to page 10. To the Memorandum of Agreement number 1. May I have a motion for that, please? Joyce, second. Maureen, discussion?
Can I just ask, I'm not exactly sure what these memorandums are. Can someone just explain to me?
Sure. So in our teacher's contract, we have set number of courses or sections that a teacher is eligible to teach. Because of the way our science classes work, we do have certain situations where we have science teachers who are also instructing the lab period, and it's above and beyond what the contractual requirements are. So in the memorandum 1 that we're asking you to approve, it's for 2 science teachers at Fairport High School. And memorandum 2, it's for 2 additional science teachers. And then memorandum 3 is different. It's not about an overage, it's about a tenure period. And it's for a teacher who was previously tenured by us, Fairport, and moved to a new tenure area, and we're asking to reduce her tenure period to a 2-year window, which is something that we did similar to another employee at that time.
So the first 2 are just saying that we're approving them to teach these extra sessions?
You're approving us to be able to pay them. And because the contracts are authority to pay the teachers, you're giving us the additional authority to compensate them for that additional period that they're teaching.
Okay, thank you.
Marcy, this has been happening forever, and it probably happens in lots of districts, because they have to teach that extra lab period, which is extra from what is contractual. So they always, instead of changing the contract, they have this memorandum to add on to, as Kate said, to compensate.
Okay. So we know that they have these lab periods every year, but it doesn't go into the contract?
It pretty much has to happen, yeah, every year.
Okay.
If I remember correctly from the old days. So we're, any more discussion?
Why is that?
I'm sorry,
I'm
Maurice.
sorry, we don't have anything from Minerva DeLand.
We don't. So each building is scheduled a little bit differently. And so there were needs, the way that the schedules are in these particular buildings for the additional. But it is also a scheduling in terms of how the buildings are scheduled. And so I know there was some conversation about some additional changes. We're certainly open to looking at those and reviewing that. But I know that when these buildings went to do their schedule, this is what the administrators really believe students need. And that's why we are supporting these as well.
I just wondered because I didn't see Minerva.
It's a good wondering.
Because, I mean, these are the classes of earth science and life science are generally speaking in the 9th grade. Earth science is the
These are advanced classes at the middle school, and there's not as many sections at the middle school.
It doesn't say middle school, this says at the high school.
Well, at memorandum number
Doesn't say-
2.
Number
1, you're on number 1, okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I was looking at 2, I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's, all right. I understand that better now. So these are more for the kids, the 8th graders that can be accelerated to.
Take the earth science, and again, it becomes a mathematical equation, if you will. When there's more earth science teachers at Minerva DeLand, they could complete the labs with the sections that they have. At the middle school, it's
Makes sense.
So these are specific to middle school?
the memorandum 2.
Okay.
Yes.
And the first one's for the high school.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All in favor of memorandum of agreement number 1? 6-0. Memorandum agreement number 2, middle school. May I have a motion, please? Marty? Second, Marcy. Any further discussion on this one? All in favor? 6-0. Memorandum of agreement number 3. This is for lessening 1 year of tenure eligibility, or whatever you want to call
So
it.
you've already approved that she have a 3-year window, and we're asking that you agree to take an additional year off, in part because she was already a tenured teacher in our district, and also because it's something that we did with a teacher who was similarly situated at the exact same time that this particular teacher was appointed by the board.
I did this out of order, but motion, please.
Sorry.
Maureen? It's my fault. Second, Pete?
So she's already spent 3 years in the district and got tenure. More than 3 years and has had tenure.
Correct.
And now because she moved, she needs new tenure.
She was tenured as an elementary teacher here, and then was appointed, she's moved to become a reading teacher, and that's where her new probationary period is.
Any more discussion on that one? All in favor? 6-0. Next is Fairport Administrators Association tentative agreement. May I have a motion, please? Marty, second. Joyce, discussion? All in favor? 6-0. Fairport School Office Professional Association, tentative agreement. May I have a motion, please? Maureen, second. Joyce, discussion?
Yes, this is the right one. We've had a few discussions around this, right? So I've made the decision for myself. I'm going to vote against this one. I don't mean to put the fear in anybody or Kate's eyes or anything. In terms of, we had a situation where, I felt we didn't do the right thing by an individual. And although the language isn't in the contract, and I understand that, and in terms of our process, I understand that it was too late to work on that and make that a priority for this year. That won't be the reason I vote against it, because the language isn't there. Ultimately, as I was thinking about, it's because the contract ended up being used as an excuse. It looks like through memorandums of understanding or other things that we have ways that we can do this if language isn't there, and the contract seemed to become an excuse and the barrier. And so if that's going to be our excuse and a barrier not to do the right thing by an individual, I will vote against that contract.
Any more discussion? All in favor? 5-1.
Thanks, you didn't make me raise my hand.
We'll make him raise his hand, oh, please.
Against? Opposed? Pete. Fairport District Paraprofessional tentative agreement. May I have a motion, please? Marty? Maureen, seconds. Discussion? Maureen's voting. Okay, all in favor?
Before you vote, could I just identify for you that two of the members of the negotiating team for the Fairport Paraprofessionals Association are seated behind me, Lily Mitra and Deb Reynolds, and I really enjoyed having the opportunity to collaborate with them on this particular contract. I thank them for their service to the district.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor? 6-0. Okay. Board discussion, action items, new extra classroom activity. Motion, please. Marcy, second. Marty, discussion?
Yes, I assume that this is going to, we're going to see these next two extra classroom activities on the list when we look at who gets money and for the advisors and so forth. Is there any, what's the starting piece? All these people will be starting people. So is there a base income there?
They'll be based on whatever classification these clubs or activities are associated with. So there'll be a negotiated stipend, and then over the course of the years, as they continue with their service in that club, it will be.
No, I probably know this, but I have forgotten. Earlier tonight, we heard about a new club, a reading club at the middle schools.
Yeah.
Middle schools don't have to go through this process. They just do what they do. Because I don't remember seeing an approval for a reading club.
When there's a co-curricular club, and this is something that Matt and I have talked about, that handles dollars and cents and has a budget and line item, that's when you see it. If there's clubs that are part of.
If there's no money.
Right. No money that they handle. I mean, we pay the stipend, but we.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So we do pay them, but we
You
don't
pay them
approve
stipend. You see it approved as to where it is when it's line itemed, but you don't approve the actual club.
So how do these differ from?
I'm believing that these clubs here have an extracurricular. They have they have presidents and treasurers, and they handle the money that comes through their books. Is that?
Maureen, this is an interesting question.
Yeah, I'm not sure how those clubs are set up. Overall, when there's a stipend involved, usually that's board approved to pay out the stipend.
But as far as, what was your particular question?
My question is, we have not approved, we heard about today about a reading club. Marilyn got a really cool sounding book from the reading club.
Was that on?
That's a JP gift, I believe. Okay. So I just said, I don't remember recommending or hearing about a reading club till tonight. I don't remember approving a reading club. What makes middle school different from the secondary, from the other secondary schools? That's sort of where I'm coming from.
So we can certainly review and look into it. I'm not aware of any proposal for a club that came through HR, but we can certainly double check on it. It may be part of a academic class or some instruction that's already going on at the library.
To think maybe.
I seem to remember hearing something about it, but we can certainly
come
look.
during your lunch period. There are groups like that happen. So that could be, I don't.
Informal activities rather than clubs.
It's not
They call themselves club. They call themselves a club.
Right, well, those are the kids, yeah.
So there's some very helpful friends in the crowd who have said that actually that this was a club that was approved, but the name of it was changed.
Oh.
And so the
But does it come
JP
through every
club-
year, though? The actual, it needs to be approved every year, because they're paying it every year. I think that's the question.
The stipend?
The stipend.
I'm reflecting on our practice now. In our practice, we've amended this year to approve all of the athletic coaches on an annual basis. But our past practice used to be, once you're approved, you won't come before the board again. I'd like to double check our practice on our club advisors, because I'm not recalling that we've submitted to you the names of all of the advisors for all of the clubs on an annual basis.
I don't remember that at all.
Right.
You haven't, or?
No, we haven't.
So these are new clubs, that's why it's in front of
This is
you.
just my question. We
Versus.
heard about a new club,
Breakfast
and
clubs.
I don't remember seeing its name coming for approval, so now I'm
So
hearing.
apparently it's not a new club.
You guys just made
Change
it
the
really
name.
interesting for us.
We will definitely
Or a
double
name
check.
Yeah. Thanks.
But I love the idea of a reading club.
I was so excited by that, but then I said, wait, I haven't heard about that one before. What's missing? So I do pay attention once in a while.
All in favor? 6-0.
I'll keep my hand up for the next one, too.
Okay, so this is new extra, another extra classroom activity, Gay Straight Alliance. Motion, please. Maureen? Joyce, seconded. Discussion?
I had thought I wouldn't make a comment, but Sydney had quoted President Kennedy and changed my mind, right? Because I love the quote, and it
was wonderful.
Right. But then I always go back to Martin Luther King, a true hero, in terms of this quote, wanting people to be judged by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. I take the color of their skin and I can apply that further. I'm so anti-labels, and I think our society is deteriorating as we seem to be multiplying the number of labels that we're using anymore. And right, I think of LGBT, which is now Q+, and all the different labels. I don't think this is helpful. I don't think it is helpful. I prefer if we called it a no labels club or something. But I think the idea of saying the gay kids and the straight kids promotes segregation, promotes discrimination. When we, and I go back to Dr. Seuss, I'll make it simple for myself because I'm a simple guy, right? The stars on theirs and the sneeches, is it, right? And trying to change stars and mix it up as who was the ones with stars and who wasn't. I'm reading it here. I applaud what they want to accomplish. I don't think it accomplishes that as we continue to put labels on people. I started writing them down, right? We have our poor, our rich, our ELL students, our special ed. We have our smart kids and those who get valedictorians and those who don't, and everything. And I don't know that we are promoting the right thing for our society as a whole. And it starts in the schools. I'm going to. What's that?
Sounds like a retreat topic.
Yeah. I'm going to abstain, I think, from voting on this one. Like I say, I read it, and there's definitely a reason. There's no doubt some of our children, and that's what I always want to look at them as, the kids, the students, need a safe place to go. I applaud that. I'm just not applauding this labeling. I think we are doing it way too much.
Well, in spite of what it's called, I'm glad to see it because I know it was that gap between middle school and high school, and now the kids will have this straight through, so.
And that's why it's here. It's a new club at that particular school.
Any more discussion? All in favor? 5, 1 abstention? Yes, 1 abstention. Okay, the budget I'm sorry? 501. Budget calendar, and may I have a motion for that, please? Marty? Second. Pete? Discussion? Yeah, a lot of BOEs.
A lot of BOEs. It was interesting, we put it together, just a quick comment. Usually in March, we'll do a meeting, there'll be a regular board meeting where we do one presentation, and a week later, we do a special board meeting. But because of timing, we actually had to put it all onto one meeting in order to have the resolutions adopted in terms of timing for those pieces. So you'll notice the March 21st meeting is a packed meeting for presentations when it comes.
So that still fulfills the
It fulfills the timeline.
regulations and all
It
that?
does, yes. Yep. So I just to draw quick attention to that piece of it.
We should take a nap before next week.
You might,
Thank you,
yes.
Matt.
Just to warn you.
But one less BOE meeting.
One less. It is one less BOE meeting, yes. Just longer.
And we're used to long.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? All in favor? 6-0. The financial audit, accept the basic financial statements and letter of communication, year ending June 30th, 2016. Motion, please. Maureen, second. Marty, I thought I saw her hand up. Discussion?
Just thanks, Matt, and everybody who works with you on all this. It's always nice to get those nice, clean audits.
Yeah, lovely. All in favor? 6-0. Board policies, first readings. There are 2. May I have a motion, please? Nobody. Marty. Second, Pete. Discussion?
Wow, this is going to be a small policy, right? It's going to be quite brief once all that red is taken out.
Yeah.
I like brief.
We're very succinct in the policy committee.
Compared to? Yes.
But there's a resolution, there's an accompanying regulation that will put the policy into practice. So there's a decision made, right, to move that over.
So what was your question, Mercy?
I was just saying, because of the brevity of this, I was questioning the need or the, you know what I mean? But I remember the discussions about.
Short is good.
Yeah,
Short is
Succinct.
All in favor?
Oh, for both? I'm sorry, not for both.
Not for, oh, you want more discussion?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was thinking that just the first one.
Okay.
So a question, I know most of these end up being legal, so please confirm so I don't make an assumption. The use of seatbelts, that's legal requirement? We have to do that 3 times a year? I'm just trying to imagine putting high school students on a bus and going through what we endure on an airplane, you know, and the comedians who make fun of those on air, do you really want someone on an airplane who doesn't know how to use his seatbelt and we have to endure these instructions? This belittles the idea, so please tell me where it's there because it's legal, not because we think we should teach certain age groups 3 times a year how to use a seatbelt on a bus.
It's legal.
And point to the
An acceptable
exits?
placement of the seatbelt when not in use, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, this one really just had that annoying, you would have gotten my comments in the notes had I been sitting in the meeting, right, about, wow, just take the fun out of. I think it has the opposite effect. The older the kids get, it's going to somehow end up being.
Marginalizes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and they don't need to wear them. I mean, the law is they have to be on the bus, but there is no law that they need to wear them.
I think it's more or less, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but if they are on a bus and circumstances do require them to exit, that they have a schema about it. And you're right, it does get a little bit too prescribed, but if you're on a bus and a situation occurs, hopefully they'll be able to respond to the communication that needs to occur to exit in a safe, orderly fashion. So I agree with you on that piece, but I like the fact that they are good reminders.
Well, the policy was really good, I thought, until we got to this use of seat belts.
And how it totally described, yeah.
No, there's only 2 policies, Pete.
Just so you know, I'm looking at them. All with the hard work you all
We're
do.
flattered that you're reading the policies.
All in favor? 6-0. Next is just a discussion, right, Maureen, on the NISBA convention resolutions.
Well, Pete is our elected representative, delegate, but Pete has said that he can't be the delegate that weekend of the convention. So I've now had the opportunity for the backup person to do this. And so I wanted some information from you of how you would like to proceed. And if you happen to have a computer with you, and you want to go to box into the clerk, the part that the clerk shares with us, and look at the New York State resolutions, I want to talk about the Fairport resolution, one of the 2 that didn't get approved, or didn't get recommended for continuing. Because, Pete, we've written this, you wrote this 2 years in a row, and both times they said, we're not going to recommend it because it's already in place. And I don't see that it's already in place. So I'm just going to read a couple things to you in case you haven't had a chance to read it yourself, or if you don't have it in front of you. The Resolutions Committee said they're not recommending it to us because there's already a resolution in place that we will agree to earlier that day. This resolution says that they want New York State school boards to advocate for state proposals that provide access to programs to prepare students to be college and career ready, achieve equity and adequacy in funding, promote efficiency and cost effectiveness, advance high expectations for all students, embrace innovative approaches and assessments, and foster community engagement. That's what Resolution 1 says. The Resolutions Committee thinks we said the same thing, therefore it would be redundant. I will now take just a second to say to you, if you don't have it with you, I'll read what we said. We want legislation that wait, wrong one. Got the wrong page here. Shoot.
I have it here, Maureen, you don't read it.
Thank you. We want programs that are deemed, we want to support the adoption of well-founded, research-based educational policies and programs, and then it goes in to list them. My question is, did what I read to you to begin with meet what Pete has written, what we have approved, that they say it's the same thing?
I don't think so, but.
I'd like to recommend and have you just approve this, if you don't mind, that you allow me to amend, to make an amendment to that Resolution 1, to ask for programs that we will adopt well-founded, research-based educational policies and programs. And take that particular piece that's in our document that's been there 2 years, and they keep telling us, well, it's in there, it's what we're doing, it's what we're doing. And it's not.
So you want it to be amended into theirs.
I want you to allow me to have that leeway to take what we originally said, and you have approved that. And they're saying, well, we're not recommending it because it's already fitting into something they already do. I don't see it there.
So you're going to add it to the one
I
they
would
say
like-
it's in.
I would like to bring up for a proposal an amendment to that resolution, to the original resolution that includes this.
At the convention.
At the convention. But I wanted your knowledge and understanding of what's happening, because this is our resolution. I didn't just want to go willy-nilly. Pete and I have talked about it. I was going to let him do it. And then.
He might be able to.
Are you going to be there after all?
Maybe.
Oh, good. Good.
Now that I've canceled all arrangements, right?
Now
But
that
you
he
didn't take
doesn't
my
have
spot, right? So I still have it available.
Well, I'll make a motion to
Well, I don't think we need a motion.
I want an understanding.
We've already approved it.
Approved this
Okay,
as
so
a
you don't
resolution.
need a resolution, I
And
mean,
they,
a permission
we
to
can
do
either
this.
say, well, we want to forward the whole resolution.
I say go
But
ahead.
for 2 years in a row, they're saying, well, you don't need it, and last year we got shut down because we didn't need it. I want to see if we can come up with a different approach to this. And Pete, if it's going to be you, is that okay with you?
Yeah, I think one is a brilliant idea. It's also the first resolution. Everybody's there. By the time this one, they said turned down is number 22, people tend to tap out around 20. That's about when it happens. And so anything past that, suddenly quorum has disappeared and the meeting's over and we don't even get to it. And so the strategy is really quite good.
Now, the other thing we can do is we will have that, we can type it up ahead of time, thank you, Karen, and put it on the form that goes there so they will see it ahead of time, that it's there, so that it'll be all ready to go. Because a lot of times resolutions from the floor, people get upset because I'm waiting for somebody to make these suggestions. If we make them ahead of time, that gives NISBA a heads up, this is what we're looking for, so they're prepared, and it won't take long. So the faster you can speed things along, the happier delegates are.
We want happy delegates.
Happy delegates tend to vote
For a
happy ways.
happy life.
And they will, I think they will see the same thing that we see if we point it out to them. When you get to resolution 22, they're not looking at anything,
Yep.
except when is my flight home start? And now that Amtrak's a problem, that's a whole other story.
It's a better strategy. for
I
sure.
see nods all the way around. Okay.
There are some other issues in there, and one of the things Pete addressed, that's an issue for us to discuss there, which doesn't mean anything to us because we're local, but that we did lose a quorum last year and before all the business was finished. And so people were upset with that, so they want to change some of that internal rules. And that's really, there's not a lot of, I don't think there's going to be a lot of infighting this year. Some years there is. It'll be interesting. Pete, do it.
If I'm there, great. So we know how to move.
Okay.
Let's write it up.
Thank you.
Thanks,
again-
Maureen.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Part 11, board comments. Do we have?
I'd like to just make a quick mention of the passing of Ken Harris, who served our board for 18 years. And we lost a wonderful advocate for children in Ken, because he really was exceptional. He was a kind, generous man with his time and efforts and everything, and he worked with kids and for kids till the end. He did great things, of course, at BOCES, so he contributed to the whole community. But right here in Fairport, he made big differences, and I always felt when I came on the board, he was on, and I always felt I was a much better board member because of Ken and what he taught me and his example and everything. So we lost a good one.
I also would like to say that I lost a very, very good friend recently who was the board president many years ago, Ellen Ulrich, and she will be so missed.
On a different note then,
Yeah.
Mrs. Moretter came up just before we got started she said shamelessly promote their hack lab. I wish I'd written down what it stood for, Heroes Doing Kind, something caring and kind activities, or, Brett, do you know by chance? Anyway, she invited us because their visit isn't out till March. They're so excited about what's going on there. They wanted to invite us to come in and see that at any time prior to our visit in March.
Say the name again?
The hack lab. I don't know enough details. We were barely whispering beforehand, but, so at Northside School. If you want to go, just let them know.
Information on that, Cass, as to when would be a good time if we wanted to stop in?
It's all about science and inquiry. It's really quite phenomenal.
Okay. Yeah, she was quite excited, so.
Okay, so proposed executive session, may I have a motion, please? Marcy, second Marty. Discussion? All in favor? 6-0. And we will be returning to regular session after the executive session for some decision on the executive session. Thank you.